I'm Jenna. I decided to start this YouTube account because I have a ton of recipes. A lot of them are family friendly if you've got picky eaters. So I'll just jump in, tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get going. I am a mother to two, stepmother to four. So we have had a busy house over the last decade or so that I've been with my husband. I mean, that's pretty much it. I work full-time, my husband works full-time, so just a really busy household. But I always try and make good meals. I always make dinner so that we can sit around the table and enjoy it together. The recipe I'm gonna make today is my chocolate chip cookie recipe. I am known for this locally, just amongst family and friends, like, oh yeah, Jenna's cookies, or like, hey, can I bring anything? Yeah, cookies. That's just always what it's been. So it kind of started last night. I was hanging out with my neighbor and her stepdaughters, and they were asking for some cookies. They asked if they could have the recipe, and I was like, oh, actually, I don't give it out. Only my nieces have it, but I thought, you know what, I'll just go for it and share it with the world. So this is me sharing it. I found this recipe years and years ago, kind of modified it a little bit to make it my own. And then my brother ended up getting cancer, and so he fought that for many, many years. And I was the one that was at his house. I always took care of his kids so that my sister-in-law could go with him and my mom was with him. And I just kind of held down the fort at their house. So I always made cookies. My nieces and my youngest son were really little. They were, probably about one. And so just barely talking. And I always made cookies because this recipe is just really good, I think. So my sister-in-law one time said, oh, Auntie's gonna come over, and the girls go, cookie? So that's how Auntie Cookie came about. I have this apron that says Jenna's Homemade Cookies, made by my sister-in-law's grandma, Myra. So we'll just jump right into the recipe. I have my oven preheating at 350 degrees. My KitchenAid mixer here. I need to unlock that from when I moved it. I will add, I'm not a funny person, so if you're looking for entertainment or anything other than cooking, like, move along. I'm not funny. So I am going to put on my attachment here. Now, I will say I have not always had a KitchenAid. So I did at one point just have like an old school hand mixer. You can use that as well. One time I was out of town and the house I was at didn't have a mixer at all. I used a fork. So it is possible to make these, with minimal appliances, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna start with 3/4 cup butter, or a stick and a half, and put that in my KitchenAid. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a mix so that that butter can kind of whip up a little bit, and then we'll add in our sugars. Whipped that up a little bit. I'm gonna add 3/4 cup brown sugar and 1/4 cup granulated sugar. And I pack my brown sugar just a little bit. I don't even use my hands really, but 3/4. And then 1/4 cup sugar. There we go. And then what we'll do is we will cream the butter with the sugar until it is well incorporated. You might have to scrape the sides at one point or another, so just keep an eye on it. Okay, I'm gonna scrape the sides and my paddle there, because I can see some butter chunks. All right, and we'll mix again. All right, so now I am going to add in just 1 large egg and a couple teaspoons of vanilla. The vanilla that I use comes from Mexico. My grandma started getting this for me years ago, and I just love it. 1, because it's super inexpensive, but 2, because it's really good. There's also a clear one, so like if you're making a frosting, you know, like a buttercream where you don't want it to be tinged that dark color, you could use that one, but I usually use that clear one for everything. I'm just trying to get rid of this, and so cookies is perfect. So I'll do a little splash in there. I don't measure my vanilla ever, and I usually add a little bit extra. So about 2 teaspoons is what you're wanting there with the vanilla. And then we're gonna whip this for a couple of minutes, because we want our batter, 1, to be well incorporated, but 2, to be kind of fluffy. And I'll show you the texture of that as well, because the texture is kind of what makes the cookies what they're supposed to be. So. So this is that texture that we want, nice and fluffy, well incorporated, and almost smooth looking. Okay, so now I'm gonna pop this up, and we are going to add in our other ingredients. So we're going to add 2 cups of flour. And I add these ingredients in this order. I do the flour, and then I do my other things here, the salt, the baking soda, and the cornstarch. This is a 1/2 cup scoop, by the way. It's 1 cup. I also do not pack my flour. I know some people will like use a spoon to scoop it in so that it's not like condensed and packed. But I just do, you know, a light, quick scoop so that it's not super packed in there. All right, 2 cups of flour. And then we need 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. And then 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, but I always go a little bit over, so probably closer to 3/4. All right, and then we will mix this until it's well incorporated and smooth. You'll hear the machine kind of slows down a little bit once it starts getting thick, so I always just bump it up a notch. And then I'll show you guys the texture of this. It's absolutely perfect. Look at that. Perfect. All right, this is where I get a little bit weird. I always wear gloves when I'm rolling these out because I feel like the dough doesn't stick to my hands as much. The other trick is you want to roll these quickly so that the butter doesn't get super soft. All right. Another trick with my cookies is I buy the mini chocolate chips because I feel like they melt a little bit better. You don't have like the hard chocolate chunks in the cookie. So I buy the mini chocolate chips, and I also don't buy the cheap ones. They've got to be Nestle. So the recipe calls for a cup of chocolate chips. I always just eyeball it, but I probably also add more than a cup. So I'm gonna just dump some in here. If I had to guess, maybe it's right about a cup. All right, I'm gonna just scrape this off. And then I don't use the mixer to mix in the chocolate chips because I don't want them to like get broken up by the machine. So I always hand mix those in. Really what I'm doing in here is I just like squeeze like this, and then I'll scrape the edges with my hand, palm of my hand. And I just mix it till it looks like there's chocolate chips in each little spot. Scrape the bottom too so that we get all of that. Oh, it smells so good. All right, this is what it looks like. Okay. Then what I do is I just grab a little, I don't know, little palm size, a little bit bigger than a ping pong ball size, so like that. Okay, and we'll just start rolling them out. I roll them in my hand like this. They don't have to be perfect balls or like perfect sizes. Again, the key is to just be really quick about it. So I love to bake, and I have kids that I have one of my daughters doesn't like cookies. I'm like not homemade, not like no cookies. A lot of my kids don't even like cake. I'm just like, oh my gosh, here I love to bake. So, and my nieces now, they're older, they're 13, they like to bake too. So passing it on. They also eat the things that they bake or the things that I bake. All right, so I've got 12 of them on my tray here. What I do is just a gentle push. Again, just real fast, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes they're like a little bit lopsided. It doesn't matter. Just a little bit flat, but also not super squished. You don't want them to be, like super flat. You want them to have a little bit of texture. People always think that my cookies are store-bought because they're perfect circles, and it's just because I roll them out. This recipe, I think it makes about 2 dozen for this recipe, so. Of course, it depends on like how big you make your cookie balls, but I think it's about 2 dozen. Another thing with your butter, I guess I should have mentioned, is that you want it to be room temperature butter, softened butter, because if it's too hard, then it isn't going to mix up as well, and then if it's too soft, it'll make your cookies flat. We just can't have that now, can we? Oh my gosh, 2 dozen on the dot. I might have it a big one for this last one. It's a little on the big side, but that's all right. 2 dozen. All right, so there we go. I'm very picky with my cookies. So what I do, if I'm doing 2 trays at the same time in the oven, I make sure that my oven racks are like one on top of the other. And then what I do is I put these in for 8 minutes and then I flip them and I'll do a couple more minutes after that. If you're just doing 1 tray at a time, 8 minutes, that's it. They might not look done, but I promise you they're done 8 minutes for a single tray. My towel fell. All right, I am going to adjust my oven racks. I'm pretty sure I need to do that, and then I'm gonna pop these in. Yes, we want them center of the oven. Alexa, set an 8-minute timer.
Good afternoon, Jenna. 8 minutes, starting now.
It is not uncommon for me to forget to set a timer, so I'm very proud of myself for that one. All right, I'm gonna let these cook, and then after that 8 minutes, I'll do a little switcheroo, and then we'll be back when it's time to pull them out. Okay, my timer went off, so we're just gonna do a little switcheroo. The top one will move to the bottom one will move to the top. Oh shit! Dang it. Told you I'm not cool. Alright, let's see here. Spatula. Epic fail. You guys can't see this, but I just dropped a whole tray of cookies. I don't even know how to clean that out. Oh my god. It's gonna be such a mess. No, Ollie. No, out. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that's one way to do it. Good thing the recipe makes 2 dozen. No, out. Alexa, off. All right, we are going to pull these out. It's been 11 minutes. Okay, I need a different spatula. All right, so 1 batch not destroyed. All right, I pull these off the pan as quickly as I can. I don't wait for them to cool or anything like that. You certainly could. I just don't. They're pretty soft though, so just be careful as you pull them off. Always give my kids the ugly ones that I mess up on. Like one of them kind of fell in the cracks here. All right, and then what I'll do is I'll just let these cool just enough so that they're a little bit firm. And then I'll put them on this leftover graduation plate and take it down to my neighbor girls. Okay, it's probably been, I don't know, 5-ish minutes. And these are ready to go, so I'm going to put them on the plate. They're still just warm enough, but not too warm to totally fall off or bend on the plate. So I'm gonna go deliver these. Thanks for watching.